Good morning and welcome, everyone. And I'm very glad that you could join us today. My name is Meg Adams, and I'm the Central Regional Coordinator of the Indiana State Library's Professional Development Office. I will be the host and question moderator for today's webinar, which is AI Literacy for Librarians, Understanding and Teaching AI. Today's presenter is Treg Hopkins, co-founder of Connectable, which is an Indiana-based nonprofit committed to enhancing adult education programs across more than 20 states through advanced data systems and artificial intelligence. After this webinar has transcribed, it will be available on the Indiana State Library's archived webinars page. If you are watching an archived recording of this presentation, information on how to obtain your LEU is in the video's description in YouTube. For weekly updates on upcoming trainings and to learn more about what's happening in libraries across the state, please subscribe to the Indiana State Library's e-newsletter, The Wednesday Word, and check out our continuing education website for other professional development opportunities. So without further ado, let's get started. Thank you so much for being with us today, Treg. I'll hand the presentation over to you.
Thanks, Megan, and my pleasure, and appreciate the Indiana State Libraries for making this opportunity possible for all of us. Welcome to What's Up Wednesday. This is the final in our four-part series for AI literacy in libraries, and it's kind of a recap as well as some new things to get you thinking about how we understand artificial intelligence in the libraries, and then how we can actually bring that into our communities and begin teaching it as well. My shout out for the local libraries this time. I try to find a local library that's made an impact for me in my journey between our last sessions, and this time it goes to Michigan City. I was up there at a conference at the casino. It was loud and kind of annoying, and I needed a break, so I went to the library, and it's a great location right down the road. Appreciate the opportunity to work from your space for the day. We're going to talk today about a lot of different things. I'm going to give you some tools as well. Again, if you've been attending some of the series, this is going to be a helpful recap as well as some new tools for you. If this is your first one, it's a really good one to attend, because we're going to be going through a lot of the information that we went through in the past, and you're also going to have some of those tools that you can begin to implement and begin to teach and train your community on as well. So let's dive into the presentation. We're going to begin talking about why artificial intelligence literacy actually matters, and why specifically it matters in the library. So we'll turn our attention here to the slide. You do get a copy of these after Megan sends out a PDF, so you can zoom in on these, and you can take parts and pieces of it if you would like. I do encourage you to freely use the material. We've created it specifically for you, so use it as you wish, especially if it helps in your community as well. Now, as we kind of lay the foundation here, artificial intelligence is changing the world, and we know that, but it's nothing new. It's been around for a really long time. I always use the example of the calculator as one of my favorite forms of artificial intelligence. It helped me achieve higher levels of math than what I dreamed possible. I hope that artificial intelligence, as it continues to move forward, helps you do things that maybe seem absolutely impossible. A lot of times it has to do with our time and productivity. But the way that it's rolling out, the way that we're able to understand artificial intelligence as a new technology in today's world is really because of the way that it's changed with advanced algorithms and supercomputing and the vast amount of data that's being collected, and then it's utilizing that to kind of mimic what our brain is doing. Now, librarians themselves are at that critical crossroads in this revolution, and that means that you are looked at and viewed often in your community as the trusted professional when it comes to information, and that means that you yourself are uniquely positioned to help the community embrace this new technology, understand it, and navigate the confusion as well as the ethics behind it to be a bit more responsible in your community, to be a bit more effective at the use of this technology. And it's a really important knowledge base to have and for you to hone in on. In fact, it's the top skill in demand, according to LinkedIn's 2025 little research there. They found that when we looked across industries, that this specific skill set of understanding and utilizing artificial intelligence is the number one skill that's being required across job postings. And I also like to point out that when they're screening for these different positions, often those companies are using an artificial intelligent agent to help them sort through the resumes and those applicants to determine what skill sets they're bringing to the table and who might be the best candidate. So AI is being used as a way of kind of finding AI. Now, 73% of library patrons express some form of interest or desire to learn about AI technology and those tools. Some of it comes from the place of fear and some just pure curiosity, but most are interested in it in order to advance their own skill set. And that means that the majority of the people that come in your doors and a lot of people that are outside of your doors, we could actually bring them through the library if we're offering artificial intelligence training or education. And I think it begins with a simple seminar or a community day where you invite people in to learn a bit more about it. I'm excited to be training staff on this at Morgan County's Mooresville Public Library, as well as Indianapolis's library at their upcoming Professional Development Day next month. I believe Brown County is coming on as well for some training. So if there's an opportunity in your community, begin to reach out. Reach out to your local high schools. If you have a community college like Ivy Tech in your community, reach out to them and find out, are guest speakers available? Who in the community might be able to come and speak to your patrons about their growing interest, artificial intelligence? And the other really interesting fact is that just in the past couple of years, reference desks are reporting five-fold increases in the patron questions about AI tools. People asking what they think about ChatGPT or what do they know about using AI. Is it really corrupting our children and ruining their education? Or is it maybe leveling the playing field and advancing education in unique ways? The urgency itself is really clear. And we know that because the job market and our patrons are already encountering AI in their daily lives, that turning to libraries for guidance is the next step. So developing AI literacy now, librarians are able to maintain their essential role as community educators and information advocates. And you can be a big part of that simply by hosting community events and providing accessible training to people within your community regarding this top skill that's in demand. So AI itself, we're going to break down the basics and kind of make sense of it all if we can. And again, if you've attended the previous sessions, you probably are going to understand some of the vocabulary. But if you've not really looked into it, if this is your first session and you're really kind of unfamiliar with AI, this is going to be that point in the program where we're able to really talk to you from the foundation of what artificial intelligence is, and also a little bit about what it's not. So AI itself, it's about computer systems, and these systems are designed specifically to mimic the human mind and the process of thinking. And it usually requires a form of human intelligence. When we think about human intelligence and this crossover piece, it really is thinking about different forms of artificial intelligence, like machine learning, that says we're going to take what our own experiences are, and we're going to try to transfer those and that data into the system, into the computer system. And it's going to mimic how the human mind would process or even respond to that information. It's about understanding then the natural language, which is another form of artificial intelligence called natural language processing. And we've been using this for a long time. I'm going to make you think back, if you're old enough, to a point in the internet where Web 1.0 was still around, and we were thinking about search engines. Now, many of us think today about Google being the search engine, and it's even becoming an action or a verb rather to say, well, just Google it. But before that, prior to Google, prior to Yahoo, there was something called Ask Jeeves. And Ask Jeeves is an interesting search engine because it was a first of its kind where you could actually just type in a question and it would be able to kind of decode that and put it into a computer code that would get you responses. That natural language process of previously needing to know computer code to even use the internet to finally just being able to type out a question like you or I would ask it and the internet to return those results. Today, now it's able to understand the way that we speak. It's understanding different dialects and different languages, and it's able to interpret it and generate, even based on emotion, how that human language is processing into data. So a wise man, Megan's father, who is a little bit older than me, maybe almost twice my age or a little bit more than that, we were talking about artificial intelligence, and he said, it sounds more like accumulated intelligence to me. And I thought, boy, that is a smart man. He knew exactly what he's talking about because that is what AI is. It's accumulating this data and it's storing it all in one place. And then it's recognizing patterns, the way that we handle the information, which pattern recognition is another core component of artificial intelligence. When we combine these things, machine learning, natural language processing, and that accumulated data through pattern recognition, the systems themselves are able to process that in record speeds because of supercomputing and the way that the speed of the computer has been able to change. Also, the way that we carry computers around in our pockets most of the time with smartphones means it's accessible to just about anyone, just about anywhere. And we also have this new technology that's kind of combining these things together and giving us the ability to generate thoughts, text, even music, as well as art in a variety of different ways. And we call that generative AI. So generative AI uses all of the forms of artificial intelligence to then produce something for us. And it does so in a very fast manner because of the speed of the chips and the way that the data is able to be processed today. And it can be a lot of different content and a lot of different context, and it can write in different tones. That might be the scary part, is how quick it is and how good it is. Now, it is only as good as you are able to code, or what we call prompt in the AI world. And that means that this is a key point of educating your community on how to use AI, is beginning with the prompt to be able to let them know that generative AI can do some incredible things if they know how to ask for it. So if they know how to communicate with the artificial intelligent agents in an appropriate way, they can get really great results. But we do have some misconceptions about the perfection of artificial intelligence. And the reality is that if we just put in some basic prompt, it's going to generate it really quickly, and you're going to be able to recognize right away that it is just artificial intelligence and that you had very little to do with it. So there's a misconception that AI is perfect, and that's not always true. In fact, it is not always accurate. It's not always truthful. It can lead us in some very strange directions. And again, you can sometimes feel that artificial intelligence is the one that's been working on it and that the person is really separate from it. But the reality is that these systems frequently generate plausible sounding, but factually very inaccurate information. And we call this hallucination, where AI thinks that it's doing really well, and reading it, it seems like it's an expert. But then we actually start to see that it doesn't really know what it's talking about. And sometimes it can even be really repetitive, and it just kind of circles through the same information. It does require then somebody like a librarian to be able to step in and say, well, we're very familiar with how research and peer review works. We know how to be able to help you determine if this fact is accurate and to be able to find it. So you do have to verify the facts and understand truth. That means that you have a role in this, and actually, when you're prompting artificial intelligence, the best way to make sure that the facts are accurate is to provide the facts in the prompt. It means that research still needs to be conducted. But Google is sort of embracing artificial intelligence as well, which means that we need to rely on more reliable sources like the library and like our books to be able to go back through and to check for them. We know that what we find on the internet isn't always accurate. And because artificial intelligence is dramatically using the internet, we know that the results aren't always going to be perfect. And in fact, we should have some hesitation about the facts that are being provided. Artificial intelligence can operate with bias, just like each one of us. And that means that we can also code it or prompt it in a way to say, remove the bias, only use credible facts from peer-reviewed journals. And if you have paid versions of ChatGPT, like ChatGPT 5, you're going to be able to see that it can do those types of things. And it operates as if it has a PhD, which means that even those sometimes can't be trusted, right? We have to go through and we find people all the time that have plagiarized in their dissertations. We want to make sure that we're approaching AI through the lens of a critical thinker and that you're helping your community do the same thing. Another common myth is that AI thinks and understands like humans. Well, not exactly. It actually only knows what you're telling it to know, and despite the sophisticated responses that it has, it also is just following programmed algorithms and these statistical models. So it lacks things like meaning and emotions and intention. Now, you can ask it to consider that, and you can train your model. So the more you use it, the better it becomes, and the more lifelike or human-like it becomes in the responses as well. So while right now, just starting out using AI, it might not be able to do these things, the reality is the more you use it, the more you train it, the more it's going to feel as if it does understand and does think like a human, even though that's not really what's happening. It's just developing more data and it's understanding how you use emotions and the meaning behind the words that you're using. So it's a myth. It doesn't actually think and understand that way, but it certainly can feel like it does. The next myth is that AI tools are neutral and objective. And I already mentioned that, like all of us, it does come with some bias. The choice that you use in terms of which program you're using can actually help determine the bias as well. And we know that just like news sites, they can slant in one direction or another. And you can actually train this to remove the bias or to expose the bias. And it's pretty good about doing that. Otherwise, the choices that we introduce, the biases that we have, they can actually be amplified. And we can see that that can be a real problem when we're looking at items like hiring and lending and even the criminal justice system. We also have a myth that using AI tools in private is a private and secure method. And the reality is that while it is secure in many ways, and it is safe to use in many ways, or at least as safe as using your email and your banking information online. The truth is they are collecting a lot of data. I often make a joke that my best friend, his name is Chase. He's known me literally since I was born. I think the day that I was born is when the relationship with Chase began. And he knows everywhere I go, everything I spend money on, because Chase is my bank, has been my bank since 1983, and collects all of that data. So it's critical. It knows every dollar I've saved, every dollar I've earned, every dollar I've spent, and literally down to the penny. And sometimes I feel like Chase is really judgmental because it recognizes these behavioral patterns and it even kind of tells me like how much money I've spent today and if it's above my average or not. So the way that this data is collected isn't new to us. In fact, we all have these relationships somewhere with our technology that's probably tracking us in lots of different ways. Your phone is probably keeping track of your location point by point throughout the day, and it knows your habits, and it's responding to those. So while the data might be secure, it might also be somewhat private. It is utilizing the data. Now, there are certain systems of artificial intelligence that are out there that are less secure than others. So while ChatGPT uses both authentication and authorization and some of the top tier security out there, probably one of the safer ones to use things like Microsoft's Copilot, I use with hesitancy, especially if you're on a network and you're using a license through an organization. It is shared information. I was training the schools. I had a contract down in Florida to train their statewide school systems on artificial intelligence. And one of their approved methods before the training, or systems rather, was Copilot. It quickly changed when they realized that with just a few prompts, I was able to find out people's grade information, their emergency contacts. I was able to find out salary information really easily, because all of that information was just stored on their network on Microsoft Excel spreadsheets and Word documents. And of course, Microsoft Outlook was their email client, and Copilot allowed me to very easily on the school network to access most of that information, including the emails that were on that network. Very not private, very much not necessarily secure. So some models are better than others. Again, ChatGPT, I feel a little bit safer using than something like Microsoft Copilot. Understanding our realities of the situation can help us from that informed perspective. It can help us communicate with appropriate enthusiasm, as well as some healthy skepticism on what the reality is of the situation and how we can navigate our patrons through it, as well as kind of raise our concerns and ease our fears depending on what situation we're in. But again, it does take you participating, kind of thinking through what artificial intelligence is and how we can actually utilize it. Because artificial intelligence, it's an evolution, but it's not a replacement. So it means that you're not going away. And in fact, while it might replace many jobs in the future, they're saying upwards of 70% of the current customer-facing positions will be replaced over the next 5 years. The reality is that's also creating a lot of new jobs, and the skill set of one-to-one personal interaction that many of you have, that's where we're going to see the increase in jobs. People still want to interact with each other, and I believe that the library is a wonderful place to interact with information and people simultaneously. And we want to be able to interact with technology as well, and I know many of your libraries are already doing a really good job with that. Artificial intelligence is going to open up an even better place for you to be able to have this communication in your community. So librarians have always kind of taught these skills, and they remain essential about questioning sources, verifying facts, understanding bias, evaluating credibility, and thinking critically about information. So these complexities are really important, and it's important that we understand that you still have a role in it, and that your role hasn't really changed. It's that the information that we're utilizing is changing, and the tools that we have are also changing. So, and this idea of it being an evolution, it means that the traditional information literacy that we're used to is still important here. Evaluating sources and understanding the publication process really hasn't changed. In fact, we just have a new tool to use it. Recognizing bias in human created content, as well as bias in technological created content or AI created content, it's also still really important. And in fact, it's probably more important now. So using AI enhanced information literacy, it helps us understand the algorithms and the ability to train our systems to be able to utilize data that's already existing, and to prevent these AI hallucinations where they take us on this very strange path that seems convincing. We want to make sure that we're not convinced, that we're always skeptical, and that we are evaluating that synthetic content just as we would in that traditional format. And that we utilize something called critical AI literacy, where we're questioning out loud who benefits from these systems, understanding things like surveillance implications, as well as advocating for ethical AI development, and that we use it in ethical ways, that we're talking about it in ethical manners, and that we do put it out there that this is a decision that you have to make, one that should not be left to the computer to make, that we don't rely too heavily on AI in the decision-making process. It's great for brainstorming. It can even help you narrow it down and determine like what prioritization you should use, but it's not a replacement. So librarians themselves, they help move beyond simple acceptance or rejection within these AI outputs. And I want you to teach your patrons to ask questions like, what assumptions underlie the AI's design? Where is the bias? Who created it? Where is it coming from? Whose perspectives then are represented or whose perspectives are missing? And can we retrain it? If it's missing in the training data, how do we actually input it into them? And then what are the implications of relying on this tool for a particular task? So if we get too used to it and it's all we do, are we removing our ability to do it manually? Would we suffocate if the internet went down? I know many people feel already addicted to their phones. Well, AI addiction is probably just around the corner as well. So information literacy has always been about empowering people to think critically about the information that they encounter. And the library's role has always played an important part in that. And it's time that we begin training people about this very idea that we can empower them to critically think even about the new technology that exists. AI literacy is simply the next chapter in that ongoing mission. And libraries, well, they're exactly where that education should happen. And we kind of are relying on you to pick up this cause and to charge your communities with embracing it as well. There's lots of different tools that are out there. These are the practical AI applications for libraries themselves that I thought maybe we could just kind of talk through and see how you would be able to use it in your own library. Some of you are using it often, and maybe some of you are very hesitant to implement it. So this gives us kind of an idea of what we can use and what we can't use. And I do try to provide a lot of differing views on it for you. So virtual assistants or chatbots, many of them may already be on your library website, providing that 24/7 patron support. It is kind of like a chat formed with a kind of a search engine at the same time. So it's frequently asked questions. It could be everything from library hours to your policies to just some basic research guidance. These systems then free up the staff time and complex inquiries. Maybe you have it on your phone as well. I know I use one. My virtual assistant, Lucy, she's been answering my phone calls for the past year and a half. I don't think I've answered a phone call in at least that amount of time. She's generally who responds to my text, but I have something called Fixer to respond to my emails, for example. Very seldom am I interacting one-to-one with the technology. In fact, it frees me up to have less screen time and to not be so attached to my computer. I'm one of the weird people that I don't have a computer in my home. I'm out in my barn because that's where my internet lives. That's where my computer and television are. It keeps me separated from the world in that manner. Many people may not have the technology in their home, so they're coming into your place of work. They're coming into the library to use this information and this technology. So if you're finding that it's just like really time consuming to answer a lot of questions and that you're spending time kind of answering the same questions over and over again, and that takes you away from your patrons and your programs, maybe an AI powered virtual assistant is exactly what you need. It can also help us with automating cataloging and metadata. AI tools are being able to generate catalog records for us, simply just scanning a barcode, and then it knows all the other information, or taking a snapshot of the title and all of a sudden it can digitize it. So extracting that metadata from digital objects like old photos and newspaper articles, even suggesting subject headings and writing summaries for you, AI can do a lot. It can also help us then with our digital archive. And again, it's with that recognition of being able to take a photo and then that natural language processing, doing these full text searching of historical documents, being able to automatically transcribe audio materials or put closed caption on your videos. AI is able to, again, do a lot. We also have intelligent recommendation systems. This is something that I find to be really useful. It's often used in the streaming services. Maybe you've been watching something like Netflix or Hulu or streaming on PBS, and it tells you something like, "Oh, you've watched this program. Here's some other recommended titles for you." Well, I keep a little catalog of everything I read, and I'm an avid reader, so I can get confused on if I've read it or not because sometimes I see something and I'm like, oh, that sounds really familiar, but I've actually just read like three other books on that title or something similar to it. It can actually start recommending other things I haven't read and keep track of the items that I have. So it helps me, understand my collection a little bit better. And it also prevents me from buying books that maybe I already have in stock. I don't know if you're like me or not, but sometimes I end up with like two or three copies of the same book because I know that it sounds good when I see it, and then I'm like, oh, I gotta have it, and then I buy it, and then I see it again, and I'm like, oh, that sounds really good, and the collection continues to grow. These recommendation systems and these tools that we have to assist us, they can actually help free up our libraries as well, personal or public. It's going to help you understand your circulation better and what to order and what to bring in. If your patrons are reading a particular genre, you can actually find out, well, what titles alongside that are going to be interesting to the people that are checking out that text. So it can help you in lots of different ways. Research assistant tools is another primary method. Being able to find the scholarly articles, synthesize the literature reviews. It can actually help you with bibliographies and items like that. Google Scholar is a quick one, obviously, to be able to use, but there's a lot of different resources that you can utilize, some paid, some free. I encourage you to kind of create throughout the state a repository of the tools that are being used within your library and maybe how you use them. Maybe it would be great to have a community of practice where you guys can get together and talk about the tools that you have and how they're being used and what's available to you and if they're free or not. I think that would be some benefit to people regardless of where you're at, even if it's just in a neighboring library or libraries throughout your county, of course, libraries throughout the state. And then accessibility improvements. This is, I think, just massive for our community, for our world, to be able to use technology to help those that have specific needs with vision impairment, with hearing impairment. We've got all different kinds of disabilities out there, and we want to be able to reduce their impact of our patrons. Oftentimes, the library serves as a critical place for people of all different abilities. And I've been able to find earbuds, for example, that translate in real time for me so that language barriers don't exist. I love that feature. Working in the world of adult education and English language learners are about 50% of my clients. I don't speak 100 different languages, unfortunately. I certainly don't understand 100 different languages. So I rely on my earbuds a lot to be able to have that back and forth conversation. So you've got to be really considerate about, who it is that you're serving and what technology is available out there. Be able to think about the implementation of those items. There are tremendous benefits, but it is important that you carefully evaluate. If you don't already have a committee or a staff member that's kind of vetting these for you, I encourage you to engage with your community on it, even invite the public to participate. That transparency with patrons about AI use is essential for maintaining trust. So you do want to acknowledge that the library is at the forefront of this, that you're utilizing this information and you're embracing it, and that they can too, and how to use it and how to critically think through it, and not just to let it do all of the work, but encourage them to try a few new tools and to have those readily accessible to your patrons so that they can test drive it and see how to use it, how to write a prompt, and what the difference is between a good prompt and a bad prompt, and what the results are between the two as well. So I've kind of created a framework for you to be able to kind of build this system within your library and understand that AI is a form of literacy. And that we are wanting to build AI literacy at the same time. So you might want a structured approach, and I encourage you to have one. The first is to know and build foundational understanding. This means that understanding the terminology, like what we've been talking about at the beginning of the presentation with machine learning. Do you know what it is? Do you understand what I mean when I say pattern recognition in relation to artificial intelligence? So studying and understanding that basic AI terminology and the concepts, understanding the different types of AI systems, like generative AI. What is it? And what's the difference between ChatGPT and Gemini or Copilot? Understanding how to use the models and how they are trained, how to deploy them, and how you can train them as well. And understanding the evolutionary process of AI and its current capabilities. Maybe taking the fear away by explaining that AI has been around for a really long time and that we've been using data in different ways for a really long time, and that it's not new technology. It's that the technology has evolved. If it's advanced and we're using it in different ways. And then understanding and recognizing the limitations and the ethics. Developing that critical awareness is really important, that we understand the constraints, when to use it, when not to use it. I even like to have some funny failures where we can have AI make mistakes on purpose in front of the patrons and be able to show them just how off it can be. Recognizing bias in the algorithms and that training data, and then how to identify and remove it. And talking to them specifically about their concerns about privacy and data collection, and that they're already providing a lot of data. And exploring the ethical frameworks then that are available, and maybe creating some for your own library and being able to share that with your patrons. Once we've done that, I think then we're ready to kind of move to the next step. So first, we educate the group on the good and the bad, on the capabilities and the concerns. And then we're ready to experiment, to gain some hands-on experience and test popular AI tools in front of our patrons, in front of our staff. I put a few up here: ChatGPT, Claude, and Gemini, all free versions for you to try out, to be able to see what we're out there and how to utilize it. Experiment with image generators. Many of you might know of like Canva, for example, DALL-E. Those are some popular ones that, again, you can try for free. And just do a little bit of research into what you think would be available to you, and maybe even kind of journal those out so that you can keep track of what these observations are, and whether or not they need to be implemented, and that it gains that experience for you so that you can really kind of talk through it with other people as well. Which brings us to our next step, which is to evaluate. Once we've been experimenting, let's take a critical look at it and have some rubrics for these AI outputs, be able to look at and practice the misinformation that's been provided. And then also develop the criteria for AI appropriate use, and maybe provide some guidelines. And then teach that verification strategy to other people as well, because we are looking at it through that critical lens of the librarian. We want people to be empowered to actually double check the facts and look at the bias for themselves. And then we want to engage, to be able to teach and guide other people. And that's the final step, is that once you have this framework created, don't keep it to yourself. Share it widely with everybody. Develop AI literacy workshops and programs, create guides and educational material, and even offer one-to-one patron assistance and guidance. Maybe, offer a little kiosk in your lobby that says "Ask AI" and see the results, and then ask a librarian. It might be fun even to have kind of a dueling battle or a debate between the two. Ask AI, ask a librarian. Let's see who gives you the better resource, if you're brave enough to do so. And then this framework itself, just a reminder that it's not strictly linear. It's okay to start experimenting while you're building the vocabulary. Some people are hands-on learners. They got to see it for themselves and kind of see and understand how is it working in real time. But the key here is just maintaining that commitment of continuous learner. And I know that you're all lifelong learners. You're ready for what's next out there, but you're also not afraid of critical engagement. So don't be afraid with AI to do the same exact thing. You can actually begin to integrate AI into your existing programs. Rather than creating entirely separate programs for AI and these workshops, you can actually just kind of weave it in. So again, maybe it's that, you've got a point in time where people can come in and get help with technology, that one of the help that you provide is also AI. And maybe it is that ask the librarian or ask AI, and that gives you both options. Maybe it is introducing an ability on your phone line to be able to just get some basic information like the hours, or you can hit 2 and reach a real person. But it gives you this opportunity to kind of integrate in, well, where are we going to use AI in what we already have? And it doesn't always have to be a separate program. I think it's another way that we kind of cross that digital divide, that we have a new digital divide. We have those that are embracing AI and those that aren't, and that it's not necessarily a generational thing, but it's a skill set thing. So how are we going to bridge the digital divide within your library? Now, there's lots of real world examples that I kind of encourage you to bring in that you can kind of use on yourself. And maybe actually bring these stories. So use it yourself. And I'm going to share with you at the end of this. I had one of my students actually generate a haiku, and it's based on AI, but it didn't use AI. But then the challenge was to have AI generate haikus of its own and to see what came out. So you can use real world examples. You can actually interact with it. I have another person that I know that really struggles with dyslexia. They were using it to kind of break it up and to help them read a little bit more effectively. So lots of different tools out there that might be able to help you with things that you're dealing with day to day. But also, don't forget, encourage the critical questioning. You are right in asking with skepticism, like, who created this AI? What are their values? What are their motivations? And what data was used to train it? What perspectives are included or excluded? To have these open discussions where people are really able to talk about the real issues. Libraries are great about informing us. Now, here are some specific resources and continuing ed opportunities. Again, most of these are probably already there for you. So if you have EBSCO, for example, EBSCOhost, AI literacy short courses are available. It is free. It takes 3 to 4 hours. It's self-paced. There's online modules. So feel free to check those out. The other one that I think is pretty with it is the Exploring AI with Critical Information Library. And that one, if you're an ALA member, there's pricing available. It is a facilitated course, so it is one that you are actually receiving the information kind of in real time. It is more like a class itself that you would take. And then Choice 360 has a newsletter series. It's just a bi-weekly email. Takes about 15 minutes to go through it. It's a free subscription. So I gave you a few different things to look at. Again, Megan's going to send this out in a PDF so that you can come back to this information later as well. Again, there's a lot of other ones out there, things like this. And again, appreciating the Indiana State Library for making this session possible and these What's Up Wednesdays. We've had great success with them, and I hope that it just kind of continues the conversation as we go. We want to empower you, and that's the purpose of a session like this, is to get you thinking, to realize that, yes, it's important that you maintain your essential role in the community, and you're able to use this information to your advantage, to be able to enhance the library services that you already have, and to be able to empower your community to use this technology, but not blindly, to be able to educate them widely. Libraries, they've always been about democratizing access to knowledge and tools. And AI literacy, well, it's simply the latest chapter in that enduring mission. When libraries lead in AI education, everyone benefits. And that's what I want you to really take away from the session today, is that you want to be in control of this and that you want to be the resource in your community that can assist. So that's our literacy for librarians today, understanding and teaching AI. This is the haiku of ethical consideration that a former student of mine wrote. Smart home takes the lead, gathers patterns, learns your needs. Vacuum hums with pride, but whispers of doubt. Data spills beyond the walls, true escapes unseen. I appreciate the opportunity to meet with you, to work with you. We do have some time. I always try to leave room for questions at the end. Sometimes it takes a minute to process, so feel free to email me as well. If it does require a human response, it might take me a little bit of time to get back to you because I'm not always around my email, but I will get back to you, so be patient in the responses. Megan will also kind of compile questions and be able to offer bulk responses if you have those as well. But Megan, I'll go ahead and pause and let you decide if we have some questions to answer live.
Thank you again, Treg. It's always wonderful to do these with you, and we've had such a success with them, like you said. I'm just glad that we can share this education with everyone. As I'm looking through here, I see that Jeannie Ott said that, let me get it here. Won't it be hard to encourage critical thinking to students when we're encouraging the use of AI to do it for us?
Yeah, I think that when it comes to students, we have to look at it from a perspective of math looked different a decade ago. And if I put math in front of you today, it's no longer linear, right? It's four-dimensional. So the way that we're writing, the way that we're reading, the way that education is evolving, it's changing dramatically. And I think that if we try to base it on like yesterday's information or yesterday's education, we're really going to struggle because it looks different. And if I look at scaffolding and lattice and things like that, it might not make sense to me. So if you're a parent and you're looking at your child's homework, you're thinking, that's not math. That doesn't make any sense. But the reality is your skill may be outdated. So linear math might be something that we're all used to and that we can do mentally even, or using a basic calculator, but that's not the math that's relevant for today's student. I think that we're going to find that AI kind of does that again with a lot of different subjects, including reading and writing, and that, it's changing and education's changing. And is it good? Is it bad? I'll just say that it's advancing, and some in concerning ways. And this might be one of them. We have to be concerned about cheating. We have to be concerned about development, about critical thinking. But the truth is, AI is probably going to advance the way that we think, the way that we prompt, the way that we code. It's a new language. So they're learning skills that might seem outside of the norm for us and might seem misinterpreted as lazy or as incapable, but the reality is it's probably just advancing in a way that's beyond our own knowledge as an adult.
That is so true. As you were talking, I'm reminded of the calculator. I remember when the science calculators came out, but even just the old regular ones,
Yes.
um, you know, teachers had to teach differently. It had to be harder. We were asked to put them away, to use our critical thinking. And I kind of think with AI in education, it's all going to be how we are teaching these new tools and in a way that is going to offer that critical thinking. So tests might be a little harder. Homework might not happen at home. It's maybe, in class, we are not to use these tools, but to use, I don't know. It's
I
interesting.
think one example, and math is a good one. It's that, now a baseline is that, like, well, everybody takes algebra. Everybody takes a form of trig and a form of statistics. But algebra used to be the endpoint in high school, and it was advanced math if we were getting into calculus or trigonometry. And today it's the basic math, and quantum mathematics is the more advanced set. And I think AI is going to make quantum mathematics the base, where it's not going to be enough to know algebra, geometry, trigonometry, calculus, and statistics. That's not going to get you very far. So the form of the calculator that we need to actually compute quantum mathematics is much more advanced than my TI-30 sitting over here.
And Danielle says, if you're teaching students old ways and not how to be critical with new ways, you're already losing them. And I
Yeah.
can agree with that.
You don't
But
want to
I
fall
did.
behind. When we look at other countries, we are 4 to 6 years behind. And that's really concerning just when it comes to math.
Hmm.
So yeah, we need to absolutely do something different to catch up in the world.
Oh, wow. Rebecca asks, our digitized collections are being used um, to train AI. Um, so do we need to be thinking more critically about what collections we put out there?
Well, probably, but also we got to be careful not to have implicit bias based on what we're willing to put up there, right? So I think that the more information that's available, the more credible AI becomes, and the less likely it is to be biased. So I think there's benefit in information, right? And I'm one of those people that I have one side that I think is logical, and I have another side that I think is crazy. And I purposefully interact with both sides of myself in that, and I try to gain both of those perspectives, because I kind of come from that idea of like, well, how can I truly believe what I believe if I don't understand all of it in terms of the subject? So do we want to be careful about what we put up there? I think so, but more in the sense that we want to be careful that we're putting everything up there, that there's as much information available to prevent things like bias, and to not cause further problems with these training models where they go in one specific direction. So, um, you know, privacy and data information and things like that is of concern, but the information is already there. And it would probably take me only an hour to come up with just about anything that I would need to find. And it would probably be concerning to you. But I'm not really that great at it. There's other people that they would be able to do it in just a few minutes.
Hmm, that's interesting. I just lost one. And it was a comment. Oh, where is it? Janet Sickler said, thank you. I was able to hear 3 of your sessions. I will go back to catch the ones that I missed. I have learned a bunch and I am more comfortable with AI. And I want to remind everyone that if this was your first session, there are 3 more on the Indiana State Library YouTube channel, and you can view those at any time. And also, I will provide the link to the archive trainings for you here in the chat, and you can find the links to those videos as well. But that's really nice to hear that Janet is a little bit more comfortable with AI after these, and I am too. Honestly, I've learned a lot.
That's a good goal to have, is that we make you a little more comfortable with it. And part of it's just recognizing that you've been using it for a really long time, whether you knew it or not.
That's very true. We're getting just several comments. There was one comment above here just sharing some questions just about the future of AI. Will AI be the end to our jobs? Can a library work with fewer staff if you can just use AI? Can there be an AI library director? Um,
All of those things. I
yeah.
bet there will be an AI library director, or a director of AI at the library. Maybe it's that instead. Will it, change our jobs? It already has. So yeah, it's going to continue to change. It's going to continue to evolve. Will it replace some jobs? Absolutely. But it's also going to replace some tasks that you don't really either like doing, or maybe that aren't the best use of your time, or that it can just do more efficiently than you can do. I've seen a lot of data positions, for example, turn it over to AI just because it doesn't make sense to pay somebody for 8 hours a day, every day of the week, to process their data when AI can do it in real time simultaneously, and you can run those reports in an instant. In fact, it's already ran for you, and it already has insights for you. And then the data people are able to then communicate that and to share that widely throughout the community in different ways. So, I think that it will change the way that we work. There will be positions that are no longer needed because AI is doing it. The university that I went to had a fully robotic reshelving system.
Oh,
So I'm thinking of all the people, and I know, like, one of my first jobs in undergrad was going around and reshelving items in the library. So I think, like, yeah, I used to push that cart around, and my mom's a retired college librarian herself. So I think of, like, how much different it is than 10 years ago when she retired. It is. It's very different. It's going to continue to change. The libraries are changing. The goal of putting everything through a data system is going to take people, not just technology. So I think that we're so far away from not needing individuals like you, but we will need individuals like you with advanced skills in AI in the next year, in the next 5 years, in the next 10 years. So continue to be a lifelong learner. That's the best advice that I can provide. In fact, that's what, I focus on, is lifelong learning. I think it's really critical that you're always thinking about, well, what's out there? And then what am I going to do about it?
thank you for that. That was very helpful. And yes, I don't see our jobs quite changing yet, but it is changing at the same time. Um, but I think one of our main jobs is just to try and educate as much as we can, because that is one of our core jobs as a librarian, is to educate. We just have a lot of thank you, Tregs. This has been very interesting and helpful. I feel more comfortable. Um, and Story Snyder said, when you say train you AI model, does this mean the longer we keep a chat GPT session open and keep asking questions, the more it will learn what I specifically want for future questions I specifically ask?
Yeah.
Does this start over with my next new chat session, or will it remember this about me specifically?
Hi, Story. Yeah, that's a great question. So ChatGPT, like, when you start a new chat, it does start over. But when you continue a conversation or you work on a project, which you can add a project in ChatGPT, you can actually create an AI assistant, and you can train it specifically to interact with you the same time and to remember you and remember everything that you're working on. So I do recommend, like, having a project and just naming it, like, Story at Work, Story at Home, something like that. You can even just name it. I have a friend who has one, and its name's Coach Chad, and it literally is his life coach. So a lot of opportunities to remember who you are and what you want, and to train it in that way. But when I do say train it more broadly, it does mean, like, you are training the bigger systems. And if you have a work-based chat GPT account, you are training it specifically within your whole work system, and it does remember that piece, and it has the data from the other accounts that are using it as well. But if you have an individual account, it's just training the bigger system. So it starts to recognize that everybody, humankind wise, is asking this or is doing it this way. And then it kind of shifts in that way. So the more we use it and say, remove bias, highlight your bias, tell me about credibility, those sorts of things, that's the important piece, because that's training the bigger system. But yes, you can train it specifically by using a chat or using a project on ChatGPT that remembers you.
Wonderful. And there's one question, and I don't know if we can do it now. This might be a question to answer in an email. But can you speak on how this might affect cataloging? We are largely a data input profession. Are there libraries out there using AI to catalog their materials?
Oh yeah, lots of libraries are out there. The New York Public Library is almost exclusively using it. We've got it used in lots of university settings as well. The Library of Congress actually uses it too. So lots of different ones out there that are actively using this tool. Are they fully autonomous? Not necessarily. Some of them are still requiring some manual inputs. Smaller libraries are often already using it, just like the ISBN numbers are actually providing a lot of that automated metadata, right? So you're probably using it in some way already. Ex Libris, Alma, and Primo are some of the ones that are more well known and are used in that way. There's also cataloging.ai, which is a tool specifically to assist you. And again, it has some free options on there. So you might check that one out kind of preliminarily if you're interested in it.
Wonderful. Well, we have 2 minutes left, so we're going to be wrapping up here, and I will be sharing links, emails, links to our archive training page and emails, and I will be sending out LEUs to everyone who has attended in person today, and we'll hopefully get those out within this week, but bear with me. I'm getting married next week, so we'll just see how that goes. But Treg, thank you. Thank you so much for doing this AI quartet for the State Library. It's been always a pleasure working with you. And yes, just thank you so much for sharing your expertise. I think we were listening intently and we asked some really good questions. If there's any questions that you have for Treg, again, I will include his email in the emails that I send you all, and also his email is in the chat too. Thank you again for joining us, and I hope everyone has a wonderful Wednesday. Thank you, Treg.
Thank you.
This stops the recording.